We're going to start this thing off a little different today. As we said last time, we wanted to talk about intention. So this time we're going to do something a little different, and we're going to get into this discussion about intention. As always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host and wife, Lady Love. How you doing today?
Hey. How you doing?
Now, I want to thank you all for always showing up. We had a wonderful last episode, and we thank you for just representing and just always giving us feedback and love. And I'm going to tell you, the last episode really was something we wanted to continue because intention is so important to a relationship. I believe that intent is the foundation of what it is you're going to have in your relationship. And I'm just going to quickly recap what we talked about last time. The three things that I feel like when every man approaches a woman, what their intentions are. Number one is going to be that his intent may just be purely physical. He sees you, he's attracted to you, he just thinks you look good. So therefore, he just wants to see, okay, hey, do we have the same vibe in mind, and we can ride with that vibe. The second one is if this man sees you, he's interested, doesn't quite know if this could be his girlfriend or not, but he's interested. He sees enough to say, hey, I want to know more. I want to learn more. And the third is if that person sees this woman as a woman that he could potentially marry. And you have to understand, in his mind, a lot of physical and maybe non-physical things he's figured out as far as what he thinks the person that's going to be his wife should be. I remember having a friend, I'm not going to say who, that said all he needed was three things in order to marry a woman. And he stated those three things. He later found out he needed more than those three things. But the point of it is, when we do have that belief of, oh man, she got it all, that is a real thing. And the reason I say this before we really get into this discussion is because if that person feels that way and maybe you don't, it's okay to understand that this person has a preconceived reason to feel this way. And even though you may fit the bill for them, they may not fit the bill for you. So I say this by understanding that we know that it's a man's job to set the intent, but it is also a woman's job to know what his intentions are, and also to know what her intentions are with him. Absolutely. And if those intentions are in alignment.
Absolutely.
So one of the things we talk about all the time is make sure that your intentions are in alignment. I believe one of the key reasons why relationships fail is because they have different intentions with each other. If I'm the man and I have the intent of actually seeing you as somebody that could be my everything, maybe my wife, but your intent is like, well, I don't know, I want to take this slow, I want to figure out who you are, then those intentions may conflict.
Right.
If a man just wants to be in a situation of having a physical relationship with you because he sees you as very beautiful, but your intent is to have something serious, then those intentions are not in alignment. Right. So we're going to get into this discussion about intention, and it might get intense. But Lady Love, give me your reasons or your thoughts on intention and what people in a relationship should be looking for when it comes to intent.
Yes. So, of course, I'm going to come with the female or the woman's perspective because I am an expert at that. And I feel as if before a relationship or when you're meeting someone, yes, both parties need to have their intentions. They need to have an idea of what they want from this encounter or this relationship. Like, you don't have to start planning your wedding on day one because you know that there's a lot that you have to learn. There's a lot that's going to transpire before you get to that point. But if you know that you're ready for a relationship that hopefully leads to marriage, then that may be your intention in wanting to start a relationship with someone. If you have just gotten out of a relationship and maybe you're not ready for a relationship right now because you're still grieving the ending of a relationship, then your intentions may be to say hello today and to say goodbye.
Right. Right.
And that's okay too, because we know that before we get into a relationship, we want to go in there with clear intention, and we don't want to waste other people's time or hurt people when we know that we're not ready to commit or we're not ready to start a friendship or a relationship that leads to marriage. And there really is no right or wrong, but the wrong thing is not being honest about your intentions.
Exactly.
That's the wrong part,
Yeah.
because you may not know where this is gonna go, but you need to be clear. And there was something that we talked about, and that I believe is a good thing. I think we kind of may differ a little bit on this,
Let's go.
but I feel as if that as a woman who, at a pretty young age, have been very clear that I wanted to be a wife and a mother, I knew that I wanted marriage. I didn't make any qualms about that, even when I was very young. I knew that I didn't just want to be out here just dating for an extended period of time. Now, did that work out for me in my first marriage? Not so much. But it's okay. I still knew I wanted to have that long standing type of relationship. And that's where you got to do your own soul searching to realize, okay, what do I want? Because I got to know what I want before I'm even concerned about what somebody else wants. So that's like the starting point. And I don't see anything wrong as a woman saying, you know what, I don't want to be in, if you want marriage, there's some people who they want companionship, and that's fine. If they
Right.
don't want marriage, they want companionship or whatever, as long as they're honest and they're upfront about what they really want as a man or a woman. But I feel as if there's nothing wrong with you saying, hey, I don't want to date for 5 years or 10 years. If I know I want marriage, I realize that it does not have to take that long for me to learn whether or not this person is my partner. I also don't think that it's super cool that on date one, well, what are your intentions with me?
Oh yeah.
Well, you gonna well, don't just be wasting my time, because you're actually operating out of fear
Yeah.
instead of just being cool with like getting to know this person, but knowing what your parameters are and what your intentions are, and also like what that timeline, not a hard timeline, but kind of like what a timeline could look like for you.
Exactly. And
What about you?
yeah, I mean, yeah, let's get into it. The thing is, and you're so right. Coming from a male perspective, I believe even though the man is the one that makes the decision, sometimes we can have men that don't want to make a decision or is not trying to make a decision that serious, especially when they are younger.
Right.
Oftentimes, that's where I think about when you said lying about what your intent is
Yeah.
can happen a lot, because the intent may be to have one outcome happen, but in order for that outcome to happen, I might have to tell somebody something just to make that outcome happen. That's why it's so important to make sure that your intention is in alignment with the other person's intention.
Right.
Because if you're going into this with, oh, I don't have any intent,
Right. No, that's
I
never a
don't,
good thing.
I'm just out here, I'm doing my thing, it's whatever,
Yeah.
then you have to understand that the other person has an intent.
Right.
They came to you for a reason. They jumped in your DMs for a reason. They weren't just sitting around playing backgammon and decide to find you and get in your DM as a
Yeah.
reason that they did that. So as a man, it may be a situation where you have to make sure that, or as a woman, you check me on what my intent is. You make sure that you figure out what that intent is. One of the biggest things that can happen, this is letting my women and sisters know, one of the biggest things that can happen is that man could find a way to figure out how to not really tell you what his intentions are with you.
And that's like playing games.
Sorry, fella. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, madam.
you giving a bro code. But I mean, I feel as if that is very disingenuous. People do it, but that's why I feel like as men and women, we shouldn't just go off of what people are saying to us.
Yeah.
Because a person can say anything. A person can say what their intentions are, but if their actions aren't aligning with their intentions, then you can be fooled and played with. And
Exactly.
nobody deserves to be fooled and played with, but we understand with ignorance or youth or whatever, that's something that's a real thing. And I
Exactly.
think most people will have that experience over the age of 30 of being played with or somebody trying to play games on them or whatever. And that's when you have to have the discernment and
The courage.
the discernment and the courage to do what you need to do about this situation.
Right. And I think with intention, because this is something we have to address, especially when it comes to relationship. A lot of times, I think that's what happens when we're younger. It is about just exploring your youth. It is about just being in the moment. And so often being in the moment can lead to situations that go way beyond that moment. And it's not to tell anybody to not live your life and not be the person that you want to be. Explore who you are, figure out who you are. I think we should make sure that we don't do that for a long time. And if we do, understand that if you start down a path and you're going down that path for a long way, it's going to take the same amount of time oftentimes to get back out of that path. And I think that's what we don't understand. I have a problem, and I'm just going to let it be known that I think one of the biggest things that happens, especially in our youth, and I believe it's led to why so much of this happens as we get older, of not being able to find the relationships we desire, is that we really go down that path of exploration or getting to know who we are or figuring ourselves out for far too long. I believe, honestly speaking, 10 years is a long time to go down a path of trying to figure out what you like, what you're into. You are exposed to so much in 10 years. What people do not understand is 10 years is the equivalent of 52 weeks times 10. That's 520 weeks. Now, I don't know about you, but 10 weeks or 100 weeks is a long time. But 10 years is the equivalent of 520 weeks. Does it take that long to figure out what we like and what we don't like? Should we take so much time in our youth exploring and going down that path? Because as I said before, if we take that much time to go down that path, it may take that much time to reverse all of what we experienced and what we did while going down that path.
Because I think the notion that some people think is that, okay, well, when I'm ready to be done wilding out and living my best life, then they just automatically feel as if I'm just going to jump into a relationship. But when have you ever been out of school for 5 years or 10 years and then you can just jump into doing what you haven't done? Or anything that you do, if you haven't done it for a long period of time, there's some level of getting back on the horse that you're going to have to learn
Exactly.
about a lot of things. You're going to have to learn, okay, what they doing in relationships now? You know,
Oh,
how are we communicating? Well, what do people want? Like after kind of being out there for so long, you have a singleness mentality.
right.
And then it takes some time. It takes not just time, because you can be single and not building yourself up to receive a relationship.
Exactly.
Time in itself is nothing if you're not utilizing that time learning
Exactly.
what you need to learn.
Exactly. On that end, because you said something that really triggered me. How many people do we hear talk about all the time? Oh, I've been married for 10 years now. I'm divorced. I don't know how to date. It's foreign to me now. That should give you an indication. Even people that have not dated for a while, think about how technology has changed for some people. If you haven't dated in 10 years, now the traditional meet somebody somewhere while you're out is not really typically the way it's done anymore. I mean, technology has come into play when it comes to this. So understand that if you are taking the approach of, oh, I could just take 10 years of my life and just blow it on, just enjoying myself and all of that, but not taking into consideration that in the 10 years, you just can't flip a switch and then automatically you're wife material or your husband material. You have done something for a while. And the thing that people don't understand is you have built up a skill to be able to do it pretty well. You're pretty good at it. It's not a lot of things that we can do for 10 years that we don't get good at. And when you do get good at that skill, that's something that's going to make you feel like, oh my God, now it's going to be hard for me to do something else different. It's a reason why we go to school and we learn what we learn is because we're trying to be prepared for and have the tools for what it is that we're trying to do. The whole process is to prepare you for what it is that your role is. If we decide, okay, I want to do something different now, then what happens? Typically, we have to go back to school or we have to take some type of course to now learn this new skill, to learn this new way. And we now have to pivot and do something totally different. Now, there are some transferable skills, but for the most part, when we're talking about relationship, if you've done it in a singleness way, and now you're trying to pivot and become a wife or a husband, there's some skills that you need to understand and know before you're ready and prepared to do this. And as we've said before, you have to be a wife before you become a wife. Right. You have to be a husband before you become a husband. Absolutely. That's what makes the other person know that they're with somebody that possibly have the tools and the skill set to be that, because we already see it in them. And if all I see is your singleness, all I see is how you have lived for the last 10 years, all I see is how you're going to react to things, how you reacted to them the last 10 years. Meaning if I've been single and now I'm talking about being married, but I react to things quickly, hey, I can be rid of this in a moment, then what am I going to do? I'm going to abandon that relationship so quick that I don't give it time to develop. I don't give it time to grow. So we have to understand, going back to intention, it starts with the intention of what we want. Because if your intention is not in alignment, you can want what you want all day. But if you are intending to be married, but you're with somebody that has been single for the last 10 years and they don't know how to be that person, they're not prepared to be that person, then it's a long road that you can toe in getting yourself to that position of being married or being with someone that's that serious about it.
Right. You'll definitely have to put in the work.
Yes.
Put in the time like you would do anything else. And it's not impossible, but again, I just don't like this notion that we can wing relationships.
Right, we can't.
Like we can go on in life and see all the bad relationships. And maybe we see good relationships too. But if we're not actively able to see it firsthand of how they communicate, how they do relationship in a way that is healthy, that it helps them to grow, that it helps them to teach each other things about themselves. If you don't know how to do that because you haven't even been around it enough, well then how is it going to happen?
Yes.
That's just like me not knowing how to ride a bicycle. And I say, well, I just saw people riding a bicycle. I bet I could ride a bicycle if I just get on it.
Exactly.
But if I don't know what I'm doing, it may look easy. It may look simple, but I want people to ask themselves, how are your other relationships going? Because if you're having a hard time with relationship, if you're having sometimes really bad relationships with your family or people that's close to you, you have to ask yourself, do I really know how to do a healthy relationship?
Right, right. Now, to that end, we talk about intention and we want to talk about some of the solutions because we hinted to one earlier with discernment and courage. We won't go too deep into that, but I want to start with what I was talking about earlier as one of the ways we can give answers to what intention really needs to be and how we set that intention. When you set your intention, and it's very good to set your intention, but of course, Not to set your intention on the first date. That's not good.
Right.
But I think what happens is there are two ways you can set an intention. I can set an intention by saying, this is my intent, this is what I intend to see, and then we'll just see what happens. Or I can set an intention, but I'm going to continue to check in with you to make sure that we're on track with doing what we had intended to do.
Right.
I think one of the solutions is making sure that you don't just set the intention of what the relationship is and then just let it be, because oftentimes we can find ourselves 6 months, a year, year and a half, 2 years in it, and we haven't really checked to see, okay, we're doing a relationship, but is this the relationship that we had intended to do? Is it the intention that I see for the relationship? And so doing a relationship check-in with each other periodically to make sure that, hey, this relationship is progressing in the healthy way that we want it to progress. We talk about a book that we have, an ebook that we have. It's a wonderful tool that you can use when you're going down that road of saying, okay, now it's time for a check-in. And no one should be afraid of checking in with each other. As we talked about earlier, if you're in this process with somebody that does not want to do things like this, then you may not be in this process with the right person. And that's them letting you know, I don't care enough about where this can go or where it's going for me to do all of this work, meaning checking in and doing all of these things to see if we're progressing in the right way. So number one, take the time to make sure that you first and foremost prepare by knowing what it is that you want out of the relationship that you are intending, and knowing that you can always go back to say, all right, it's time for us to check in. We've been doing it for 6 months. What did we intend this relationship to be and where we wanted it to go? And is it going where we want it to go? Is it doing the intention that we wanted it to do when we set out for this to happen? And it's not a big problem or what have you to have this discussion with somebody that we know cares enough about me and this relationship to want to know, are we on the right track right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
So another thing that I want to point out is we talked about discernment and courage, and I want to just hit on that for a second, because I think that's another thing that we have to understand, is that we have to use discernment in our relationships. We can set the intention, but just because we set an intention doesn't mean that somebody's going to follow that intention. One of the things we discussed before is it's like a contract. When you sign that contract, now it stipulates certain things, but that doesn't mean the person has to abide by that contract to the letter. Oftentimes they hope that you didn't read the contract all the way through, so that if they do violate your contract, you're not even aware that the contract was violated.
Right.
But that's why it's so important to say, okay, what am I discerning about this relationship? What am I seeing out of it? The intention that we set, am I discerning that this is going left of that intention? Am I seeing that maybe this person has a different intention now than they did before?
Right.
Oftentimes, and this is just keeping it real, that sometimes they may have intended to say, okay, I want her to be my wife, but as they got to know you, as they took the time, the intention might change.
Yeah.
You need to make sure and be aware of being discerning enough to see if there's a shift in what that intention is. You may not have to wait until the check-in to find out that, hey, there's been a shift, and you need to find out what that shift is. Maybe, unfortunately, somebody else may have come into the picture, or somebody else is now a part of this situation or influencing the situation. Not necessarily another person, meaning a person that's another female if he's a male, or another male if this is a female, but it could be a parent. It could be a sibling, a friend that has now come in and is now trying to influence and change the intention of what it is that you all set out to do.
And to piggyback off the check-in, in one of our other episodes, we talked about in marriage, how you need to check in.
Exactly.
Because a marriage, you can't just put it on autopilot.
No.
A marriage is not where you can just say, you know what, we're married now, we're going to be married.
No.
No, you have to check in. You have to date still.
Yes.
You have to talk to each other.
Yes.
If you want to have a connected relationship. Now,
Yes.
if you want a relationship where y'all like strangers or roommates, or you pretty much are not sharing your life together, you just kind of popping in and out and you don't feel connected to this person, then yes, you can just let it do what it does. It's the same way with a relationship. If you want that relationship, you need to be talking about what you had the intention for.
Exactly.
Because like you said, we are ever evolving. That's
Yes.
why you're always going to learn something about each other, is because you're not going to stay who you are.
Right.
So even when your mate gets used to who you are today, you may shift your mindset in some things that you thought 5 years ago was one way, and now you have more clarity about it.
Right.
So you are ever evolving. So then if you're not locked into each other, and 5 years later, your mate doesn't even know that you don't even eat meat anymore. I'm just using that as an example, but that's kind of the thought process.
Right.
If you're in this relationship with someone and you realize, you know what, this person is, I love her or I love him, but I really don't see myself married to them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of us being locked in and communicative and talking about like really important things in your relationship rather
Right.
than the surface level stuff,
Right.
then that'll be something that's omitted that is 100% something that needs to be discussed in the relationship.
Right. And like you just said, that's so important. The level of your conversation, it tells a lot about how intentional your relationship is or how unintentional
Right.
it is. If you don't have much conversation, let that be a lesson to you, that maybe you're not in an intentional relationship, because that's why they say conversation is one of the most important things in a relationship, because that conversation and how intentional it is lets you know how intentional a person is in the relationship. For example, if you're dating somebody and that person continues to involve you in their life, they talk about the future in a way that
Right.
you're a part of that future. Those are conversations that let you know how intentional this person is about you and how they want you to be a part of what it is that they're doing and what they're building. So understand another solution of knowing that you have the right intent or that you are in the right place with intention is the level of your conversation.
Absolutely.
It is this conversation about the future, about what we want to do together, not what that person wants to do. Another key is if you're talking to someone and they're talking about their future and you're not in it, or they're talking about things that don't
Yeah.
involve you, I'm going to do all of these things, and it's things that maybe you all should be doing together.
Right.
I'm telling you, here's a classic one. They're talking about getting a house by themselves.
Right. You're probably not going to be in that 3-year plan.
Yeah, I don't think they're wanting to marry you and bring you into that
Anytime
house.
soon.
Right.
Yeah.
So just understand
Yeah.
what is the level of the conversations we're having? What are we talking about? Am I being involved in the future of what this conversation entails? And sometimes you can get this not just by the conversations you two have, but the conversations that they have with other people, their best friends and things of that nature, family members that they're very close to and things of that nature. How are they talking about you?
Oh, yeah.
And what information are they giving to other people as they talk about you? That's another way that you know
Yeah.
that the conversation is intentional about what they want from you.
Absolutely. And that's also intentional actions.
Yes.
If a person has children, has family, has close friends, and you have not met them,
Yes.
then you're thinking that the trajectory of y'all relationship is going to lead to marriage, and y'all been together for at least a year, then that person probably does not seriously see you in that light. And this is the thing. Nothing is wrong with that if that's what both of your intentions
Right.
are.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Nothing's wrong with that.
Right.
But if you're seriously thinking that we're moving forward, but the actions are not aligning with you being a part of that person's core family, they do not see you as their mate. I'm sorry.
Right.
Don't bury your head in the sand and say, oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. No, it's probably not going to happen, or it's not going to happen anytime soon. And as long as you understand that, then okay, we're good. But if not, you're going to be angry at this person, but you really didn't do your due diligence.
Exactly.
You really didn't do. I don't want people to think, oh, well, you're blaming the other person, but there is due diligence
Yes.
that you are responsible for as an adult.
Yes.
If we say that it's going in this direction, but I don't see it, then it's probably not.
Exactly.
So I just want people to get their power back and realizing that you're not powerless in dating.
No.
You get to see exactly what is happening.
Exactly.
But you just have to have, after the discernment, the courage to say, hey, we need to have a conversation.
Yes.
And not just a conversation, because at this point, it's been a conversation and actions to match,
Right.
or to not match the conversation.
Yeah. The alignment.
Because
is
it's not
there.
about giving somebody an ultimatum.
Exactly.
Because an ultimatum, a lot of times, is kind of rooted in fear, and you just want to answer today, right now. But a no answer is an answer. It's an answer, whether you like the answer or not.
Yeah.
But sometimes that is your answer. And if a person is not ready for that, you don't want them.
No.
You don't want them to try to be ready for something that they're not ready for. And that will hurt, and the ending of a relationship hurts. But like Dr. Love said, if that person really, really loves you, if that person really cares about you, they're willing to have these conversations.
Exactly. Exactly.
And if they really love you, they would be willing to let you go if they're not ready for the marriage, for the relationship, for whatever it is that y'all said that y'all set y'all intentions for. Because true love is wanting the very best for that person, even if it's not with you.
Exactly. Exactly. And to that, I definitely want to say, Lady Love, it's something you said I have to make a comment on. It's about you getting your power back. So often, I think people feel powerless in these relationships. And we have to understand that it really is about you. Every relationship is about you. And you should have an ample amount of power in all of these relationships. The power to intend on what it is that you want and make sure it's in alignment with what they want. Also, the power to discern if this is going well, and also the power of courage to end this if it's not going well. You have the power of all that. I've seen so often people would actually allow someone else to make the decision of when the relationship ends, and they find themselves in a situationship, or it's complicated. And it's not complicated. Right. If you know that this is not working out the way that you want it to work out, you have the power to walk away. If somebody's intention has changed, then it's okay. It's like a contract. If somebody is breaching this contract, it's okay for you to say, hey, we need to void this contract. This is what we agreed upon, and you're breaching this contract. It's time to void this contract. So we have power in any situation that we're in. If you are an employee at a job, you still have power. You have rights. You have things that give you power. If you are working out and you're working with a trainer, you have the power to say, I want you to train me hard or not so hard. You have the power to determine that. Yeah. Whatever it is, understand that it boils down to you. And the only way you don't have that power is if you give that power to someone else. Right. If you allow someone else to feel like they have power and dominion over you. And that's where you have to make the decision that no one should ever have power and dominion over me. It's my decision. It's my life. because you can waste a lot of time and a lot of energy on someone and it never goes anywhere, but you had the power to stop it. So understand how important having discernment is, to see that this is not going the way I want it to go, and this person is not caring enough about me to have these conversations, to get it back on track and to figure it out, and have the courage to say, hey, this is where I get off. If things are not going to change, hey, this is a good time for me to say it's something out there better for me.
Yeah.
And it's time for me to explore that.
That's right.
So at this time, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We enjoyed this. It was a 2-part conversation. That's why there was no changing of the clothes, but we just wanted to continue because intention is so important. And knowing what that intention is, knowing that intention is in alignment with someone else's or the person that you're trying to be with, and understanding if that intention is not being met, you're checking in, you're doing the different things to make sure that we stay on track, but it's drifting or someone breaks the intention, to have the discernment and the courage and the power to say, hey, we intended this in the beginning. It's not working out that way. It's time for me to let this go.
That's right.
So we love you, and we just want you to understand and know we're going to be here. We have so many more topics. So please come back and join us. And as we say all the time, live and love fearlessly. Thank you.